Over the last 5 years or so, the Federal Reserve has pumped in nearly $4 trillion of extra money into the financial markets. That, in my opinion, has created much of this new stock market boom that has been experienced, while the rest of the economy has remained fairly sluggish.
One myth that's out there is that what we're doing is printing money. We're not printing money. The amount of currency in circulation is not changing. The money supply is not changing in any significant way. We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account that they have with the Fed. So it's much more akin, although not exactly the same, but it's much more akin to printing money than it is to borrowing.
You've been printing money.
Well, effectively, and we need to do that because our economy is very weak and inflation is very low.
It is very likely that at some point in the not-too-distant future, we will see a significant correction again, and that correction will be a new readjustment in the face of the artificial stimuluses that Federal Reserve easy money policy and artificially low rates of interest will have created.
No, you get out as fast as you can, because there's going to be a bear market. The next bear market, Aaron, is going to be much worse than the last one, because the debt has gone through the roof. Debt worldwide, including the U.S., is skyrocketed, and we're all going to have to pay a terrible price for all this money printing and all this debt.
But in a way, it's fraudulent and it's theft, because it does have value. You know, if you go to the bank and they give you $1 million, we all take it. But it becomes valuable only by diluting the value of somebody else who's holding money.
Unfunded liabilities, the Social Security pensions, all the stuff the government has promised to pay for but has no cash to pay for is 522% of GDP. That's not good. That's not good at all. And there's a reason why that has occurred. And the reason is because governments can print any money that they want.
Do you think gold is money?
No.
It's not money. Even if it has been money for 6,000 years, somebody reversed that and eliminated that economic law.
Well, it's an asset. I mean, it's the same. Would you say Treasury bills are money? I don't think they're money either, but they're a financial asset.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
The Constitution said gold and silver are legal tender, and it's the only thing that could be legal tender.
To limit money is to limit political power. So, prior to the First World War, Federal Reserve was created in America with the capacity to create money, which is, well, technically called counterfeiting, but in the annals of government, it's sound fiscal policy.
They said no emitting of bills of credit, no printing money, no paper money, and that only gold and silver should be legal tender.
A person that runs the Federal Reserve, especially when you have somebody like Alan Greenspan, he is probably the most powerful man in the world. As long as the dollar is the reserve currency of the world, Federal Reserve Board chairman can make or break a president.
There is no authority in the Constitution authorizing a central bank, which means there should be no Federal Reserve System. No!
Remember Mitt Romney? Corporations are people, my friends. No! People go to jail! Corporations never go to jail because they give money to the government. Barack Obama was elected because it took the most money of any political candidate ever in history from the financial sector. And in return, he extends the TARP bailout. And banks that made hundreds of millions of dollars lying to their customers, selling them financial instruments that they were actually betting against, well, they get slap on the wrist fines that basically get passed off as costs to their customers. They pay nothing. We cannot control this monster.
First of all, what is going to happen is the market will go down, at which point everybody's going to call the Federal Reserve and they're going to panic. They're just bureaucrats and academics. They don't know anything. They'll panic. They'll say, okay, we're sorry, we're sorry. They'll either start QE4 or they'll print more money. They'll say, don't worry, we'll print even more money, and they'll try to save the market. The market will have a big rally, and that might even turn into a bubble at that point. The real economy, listen, the people who are getting the money, Aaron, are having a wonderful time.
Right.
And their friends who are getting all this money that's being printed. But the rest of the country and the rest of the world is not having such a good time these days.
The Federal Reserve has been given the power and the authority by our Congress, in contrary to the Constitution, to create money out of thin air. That's essentially what they do. They've created a system where we as politicians are rewarded by spending money, because that's how we get reelected. We spend the money and we pass out the goods, and people say, oh yeah, he's an effective congressman.
And then they seem to do everything else under the known universe, and they run up enormous debts, and they start wars, and they sell off the unborn to foreign banksters, and we can't control the government when we need to. We try to vote, we try to rally, we try to have activism, and we cannot control this beast of the state.
When they say manage the economy, what they really mean is manipulate the economy for the special interests of the 0.0001% who seem to control the vast majority of the world's wealth.
The Constitution is so neat and thin and easily read, and yet
nobody reads it.
We ignore it.
Yeah, we don't use it.
Ignore it.
What's been happening since 2009? Ungodly amounts of money printing, quantitative easing, 0% interest rates as far as the eye can see. Mike, people just got fed up. Bitcoin at its heart is a global rebellion against the Fed, against all those corrupt central banks. In its essence, Bitcoin is about control.
A country that debases its currency and goes to a paper currency, the currency always self-destructs. It always ends.
Virtual currency has exploded onto the public imagination this year particularly.
The most exciting, most interesting, and probably the most important technological innovation, invention in computer science of the last 20 years. I'm here to talk about Bitcoin.
You talked about the counterfeiting. You can't counterfeit Bitcoin. That's a real problem with the British pound or the American dollar, is that they're being printed willy-nilly to solve lots of problems that politicians can't seem to solve, so they simply print money.
How in this day and age is Bitcoin even possible?
The global economy is based on hocus pocus, really on magic. The magic wand of central bankers and greedy governments.
This is what we've done. We have legalized counterfeiting. You and I can't counterfeit. Fortunately, that's still against the law because it's fraud. But why is it that the government's allowed to do what we're not allowed to do?
The fact that we would be taking out the power to control interest rates and create money from the moneyed classes, I cannot see as anything other than one of the greatest boons that could ever happen to the species at any time throughout history.
The government in a Bitcoin currency universe has to actually go to the people and ask them what they want. The government will actually have to do what it claims it does: serve the people.
You can look beyond the fad and understand that at its core is a revolutionary technology that will change the world forever.
So I strongly urge you to start looking into Bitcoin, start promoting it. Yes, it's great. You can make some money. You can do some cool stuff technically, but I really believe this is our best chance to save the world from a direction that it's heading, which is sadly a photocopy of the end of the Roman Empire. When you study history, you're basically watching the same movie over and over and over again with different costumes. Not a toga, it's a suit, but it's the same damn thing. Bitcoin, we can stop the tape. We can break out of the loop. We can regain power to the people.